What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Colby Covington reacts to Belal Muhammad's UFC 288 win. At UFC 288, streaking contender Belal Muhammad competed against Gilbert Burns in a high-stakes #1 contender fight. After 5 hard-fought rounds, Muhammad had finally punched his ticket to a title shot. Following the bout, Colby Covington, the next man in line for a title shot, reacted to Muhammad's win during an interview with Submission Radio, calling the contest a meaningless fight given that he and Leon Edwards won't fight until after the summer.
You think he's just going to sit out till early 2024? Because now, this title fight's getting pushed back till later in the end of the year, fall, winter. So you think he's just going to be able to sit out? He has that type of star power to sit out and then call his shot? No, he's going to have to fight again, and rightfully so. When you make racist comments and
According to Covington, the UFC is targeting a fight between he and Leon Edwards for August or September, meaning that Muhammad would likely have to wait several more months for a title fight. At the same time, there's been speculation that Leon Edwards could look to demand a rematch with Belal Muhammad rather than give Colby Covington a title shot, given that he maintains that the former 2-time title challenger doesn't deserve a crack at the belt. The way Belal Muhammad sees things, if Edwards is serious about not fighting Covington, then a fight between he and the champ makes the most sense. He spoke on a recent episode of MMA Junkie Radio about the logjam of contenders, admitting he would even be open to an interim title fight with Colby Covington.
I mean, if he doesn't fight Colby, then he would have to fight me, right? And I think that since he wanted to fight in Abu Dhabi, me fighting him in Abu Dhabi will be the biggest fight the UFC can make in Abu Dhabi, and especially in that market. I don't think that there's a bigger name that you could put in Abu Dhabi. An Arab fighting for a title in an Arab country would be huge.
From the sounds of things, Leon Edwards is willing to fight whoever the UFC puts in front of him, even if it's Colby Covington. He gave his thoughts on the welterweight title picture in a tweet, saying that he doesn't care who he fights next, the whole division is light work. That prompted a response from Muhammad, who stated that the two have unfinished business and the champion cannot hide anymore. When Belal Muhammad gets his crack at the title, who do you think he winds up fighting? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Henry Cejudo calls out next opponent following UFC 288 loss. Following a closely contested fight against Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo remained non-committal about his fighting future, both during his post-fight Octagon interview and during the post-fight press conference. Triple C maintained that if he couldn't beat Aljamain Sterling, then his goal of moving up to featherweight and chasing the title of C4 may be less attainable than he thought. Now, however, after mulling over his potential retirement, Cejudo seems to have decided against retiring. This week on Twitter, he called out Merab Dvalishvili, who seems poised to fight for the title once the Funkmaster fights Sean O'Malley and moves up to featherweight. In the tweet, Cejudo seemingly called out Dvalishvili for a fight in Boston, where UFC President Dana White recently stated that Sterling and O'Malley would compete for the bantamweight title. Dvalishvili was quick to respond, agreeing to the fight and saying that he'd happily take care of Sterling's leftovers. With the two men agreeing to fight, many are expecting that if Aljamain Sterling beats Sean O'Malley and vacates the title, then the UFC will book the Cejudo vs Dvalishvili fight for the vacant belt. Should the bout wind up taking place, how do you see things playing out? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Sean O'Malley gives prediction for upcoming fight. Top-ranked bantamweight Sugar Sean O'Malley is expected to step into the octagon later this year to compete against Aljamain Sterling in Boston, and with the fight all but finalized, he's feeling supremely confident regarding his chances. During a recent appearance on the MMA Hour, O'Malley weighed in on the fight between he and the Funkmaster, saying,
I understand how dangerous of an opponent Aljo is. I know his strengths, I know his weaknesses, and he could be considered the greatest, bantamweight of all time right now with his resume. So I know what I'm getting into. I'm very excited for the challenge, and I do believe I have the ability and the skills to go out there and shock the world, because I do believe I'm going to be a massive underdog.
Regardless of how long has passed, O'Malley is confident that his star power won't have worn off. During his MMA Hour appearance, he predicted that his fight with Sterling will double the pay-per-view sales of the Funkmaster's UFC 288 fight with Henry Cejudo. When the two clash inside the octagon, do you think O'Malley is able to shock the world, or will the Funkmaster's dominant streak continue? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Michael Bisping discusses Israel Adesanya's next move. After Israel Adesanya's big UFC 287 win over Alex Pereira, many question who the last stylebender could wind up fighting next. Given that he has essentially lapped the division twice, there aren't many contenders left for him to face. With the #1 contender fight between Dricus du Plessis and Robert Whittaker on tap for this summer, Adesanya will find out sooner rather than later who his next opponent will be. Although it sounded as though Alex Pereira would move up to light heavyweight, he and Adesanya have also seemingly reignited their rivalry, leading UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping to believe that he deserves to still be in the mix for a title shot. During a recent YouTube video, he weighed in on the state of the 185-pound division, naming Pereira, Du Plessis, and Whittaker as the three men in the mix to fight for the title. Although Robert Whittaker has already lost to Adesanya twice, Bisping believes he gets better with every fight, and as a result, he wants to see the two throw down once again. In the case of Pereira, he stated,
"If you're Pereira, you've got the storyline all day. You say, listen, he just says what he says. It's 3-1. It's 3-1. How can you claim to be the better fighter when it's 3-1? That is simple math, okay? Simple as that." And he's got a point. He's got a point. The fight needs to happen.
In the case of Du Plessis, Bisping believes that although he has an exciting style, he likely doesn't make it through Robert Whittaker. Who do you want to see Adesanya fight next? Play matchmaker in the comment section below. Khamzat Chimaev refutes claims that personal reasons are keeping him from fighting. UFC President Dana White recently stated that Khamzat Chimaev has not fought yet and doesn't have a fight scheduled because of personal reasons. The news came on the heels of White shutting down talk of Chimaev and Kamaru Usman competing in a catchweight bout, and apparently that didn't sit too well with the undefeated contender, who fired back on Twitter, refuting White's claims of personal reasons keeping him from the octagon. "I have no problems with fights. If they gave me a fight, I would have fought a long time ago. I did so many training camps and not one fight. The problem is definitely not with me. Prepared in Dubai, then to Thailand. Why do I train so much if there's no fight? I don't understand." Chimaev then followed up the tweet with another one, where he called out several top-ranked contenders at both welterweight and middleweight. Belal Muhammad, Kamaru Usman, Israel Adesanya, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, and Robert Whittaker all found themselves on the receiving end of callouts. Paulo Costa, who wasn't on the list but was mentioned as a potential opponent for Chimaev's next fight later this year, also tweeted about the situation, referencing White's claims of Boers having problems in his personal life. What do you make of the situation? Sound off in the comments below. Jamahal Hill reveals next fight. UFC light heavyweight champion Jamahal Hill is chomping at the bit to get back into the octagon after winning the title earlier this year in Brazil. Although there's been much speculation as to whether or not Hill would wind up defending his title against Alex Pereira, it sounds as though his next fight will be against former champion Jiri Prochazka in Boston at UFC 292. The card, expected to take place in August, will also likely feature a bantamweight title fight between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley, setting the event up to be one of the biggest of the year. During a recent interview with MMA Junkie, Hill spoke about the situation, saying,
I was just watching his fights the other day. He's not that guy like you think. I can't wait to get him in there. I truly can't wait to get him in there so they can really see what it's like. Like, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be funny, bro. It's gonna be funny. I'm gonna beat the dog out that, man.
With the two men both riding impressive winning streaks into the fight, how do you see things playing out when Hill and Prochazka meet inside the octagon? Drop your predictions in the comment section down below. Next, we have Nate Diaz revealing shocking news. At the press conference between Nate Diaz and Jake Paul, Nate had some revealing information about his UFC return after he was asked if he would fight Jake Paul at MMA in the PFL. Here's what Nate Diaz had to say.
Hey, so you've done some pretty big things for the Boxing Association in the last 5 years. After this fight, I know you mentioned Conor McGregor. Is that something that you might want to take to the octagon and do with Dana?
I'm signed to the PFL, so but we'll see. We'll figure it out. I told Nate too I want to fight him in MMA after this, and he doesn't want to do it. But I think once I knock him out, he's gonna try to get that get back.
What that I want to fight him in MMA?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the UFC probably and fight the champion.
He also had an interview where he detailed his return to the UFC and his trilogy bout with Conor McGregor. Do you want to see Nate Diaz take on Conor McGregor for his next fight in the UFC? Who do you think would win? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. Either Dana is lying about the slap numbers or somebody's lying to Dana. Good to know Tony is okay and no one got injured. Hezbollah must be hanging out with Masvidal and his dad nowadays. Aljo's wrestling/grappling would make quick work of O'Malley. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it.